Thursday morning across the south. In fact, it's generally a dry and a bright day for many on Thursday, but there will be showers coming into western Scotland. Still very windy across the far north, just not as windy as Wednesday. Brighter skies coming in across the south by the afternoon, and temperatures again mostly in mid to high single figures.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB Plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton tonight as scheming Sturgeon ties herself in knots over the gender of double rapist Adam Graham, leading her arch-rival Alex Salmond to lash out at her calamitous trans policy.
Get independence over 50% and then throw it away in some self-indulgent nonsense.
I'm going to reveal why the disastrous First Minister's desire to be the world queen of woke, even if it puts the safety of Scottish women at risk, will now be her undoing. That's in my digest next. Then I'll get the thoughts of my superstar panel. Joining me tonight, Amanda Patel, Calvin Robinson and Rebecca Reid. And breaking tonight, huge news. Our very own Lee Anderson has deservedly been appointed the Conservative Party's new deputy chairman. So it looks like Tory HQ will be getting a proper taste of the real world.
Well, does the Home Secretary agree with me? If the accommodation is not good enough for them, they can get on a dinghy and go straight back to France.
Yeah. My inbox is full of people complaining about the BBC all the time, saying it should be defunded.
I'll get the exclusive live reaction from Westminster's toughest talking MP in just a few moments' time. Also coming up, as he's called to give evidence in the defamation case brought by Meghan's sister Samantha Markle, could Prince Harry end up caught in a web of his own lies? Esteemed royal biographer Tom Bauer gives his unflinching verdict on that and more at 10:40. Plus, the Sussexes are keeping the royal family in perpetual crisis over the King's coronation. But what is the best case scenario? That Harry comes alone, the toxic couple come together, or they just keep the hell away? Royal experts Ingrid Seward, Kinsey Schofield and Rebecca Toomey duke it out in the clash at 9:20. Elsewhere on the show, as she's made a podcast star by the BBC, as well as a perverted MSM cover girl, are woke lefties endangering Britain by giving Shamima Begum celebrity status? The former head of counter-terrorism at the MOD, Chip Chapman, hits out at the Disneyfication of the ISIS bride's tale of terror at 10:20. Nurses delivered a crystal clear message to patients today: screw your pain, we want our pay. So, as they strike for the second day in a row, are the unions immoral for saying they will continue action for 3 months? That's our big debate at 10. Plus, this humble Grammy speech from Harry Styles has somehow sparked accusations of white privilege from rabid wokies.
This doesn't happen to people like me very often, and this is so nice. Thank you very, very much.
I'll give my blistering take on the left's race-baiting rubbish in the media buzz at 10:30. And after a virtue-signalling BBC journalist announced her aristocratic family has given away £100,000 to make up for the sins of their ancestors, has victimhood culture gone mad? Our very own Nana Akwe says this is a form of white supremacy, and she's going to explain why at 9:50. Plus, as respected child welfare experts warn that an excessive Me Too-inspired crackdown is wrecking the lives of schoolboys, does the war on men need to be stopped before traditional masculinity is destroyed altogether? Lawrence Fox is going to analyse in the Fox Report at 9:35. We're going to have tomorrow's newspapers hot off the press as well, and a brand new Greatest Britain Union Jackass. This is Dan Wootton tonight. Let's go. But breaking tonight, Westminster's toughest talking MP, our very own Lee Anderson, has been appointed Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party. It's a hugely deserved promotion, and while he's rightly rather truffed, the announcement has sent the left and the craven MSM into meltdown today. The Guardian's Pippa Crerar branded Lee a red wall Rottweiler, and what I assume she thinks is an insult. It's not, by the way. While snaring Labour MP Zara Sultana said his appointment was scraping the barrel. Well, here he is. Lee Anderson, congratulations. You're annoying all of the right people today, aren't you?
Well, hello, Dan. I say I'm the tolerant left are out in force again, saying nice things about me. But look, hey, I've always said, whilst I've been in this industry, that 50% of the population won't like my views and my political stance on stuff. And if I am living inside their heads rent-free and they're taking to Twitter and social media to say horrible things about me, then that's up to them. But, really, the people in this country, they want people who's going to speak their mind. And I always say that I always try and say the things that most people are thinking. And I think I do that on a regular basis. My constituents certainly tell me that. And if people like Zara Sultana want to have a go at me, I think really they should be looking over the shoulder at their shrinking majority at the next election. I'm going to be okay, I think. Because like I say, Dan, I get out there amongst my own people and say what they're thinking. And the left and the Guardian and the Daily Mirror, whoever wants to have a pop at me, come and have a pop at me. I've got broad shoulders. I can take that flag.
Now, Lee, you were here in the studio on Wednesday night and you said, look, you'd love the job, but there was zero chance you were going to be offered it. So can you explain what happened? Have you spoken to Rishi Sunak? How did you get this job?
Well, it's just come out of the blue this morning. Obviously, I'm out of the country at the moment on parliamentary business. And I got a message to say that the chief whip needs to speak to you. So I spoke to him, and he said, "We want you to be the deputy chairman of the party." And I said, "Well, why?" And basically, it was, "We like what you've got to say. We like the way you get your message across, and you speak to people." And I think, you know what? I took about half a second to make my mind up. I said, "Yes, of course I will." I owe the Conservative Party a massive debt personally. That they took me when I was politically homeless and gave me the chance to represent my own constituency. And then obviously a few moments later, I got a text off Rishi to wish me all the best. I'm incredibly proud Dan, of the job I do. I'm really lucky. I pinch myself every single morning when I wake up. I pinch myself when I walk into Parliament every day to do a job I love doing. And to be given this as well, which is, it's gone down really well with the membership. I've had messages, emails, text messages from all over the country wishing me the very best. Look, the left are going to attack me. They're going to be looking for stuff, over the next few days to have a pop at me. So what? I'm not really interested. The only thing I am interested in is this great country of ours and making sure that we win the next general election.
And how are you going to do that, Lee? Because you have conceded yourself that the Conservative Party is in dire straits at the moment. You are very concerned about the invasion across the channels.
Yeah.
So what's your prescription? Because you're in a position of power now, Lee. How do you stop what could be, or what's looking like it could be, a historic defeat at the next general election?
I think we've been marched up the hill many times on the small boats crisis, Dan. I've said that before. That's the number one priority. Certainly in the red wall, getting immigration down, sorting inflation out, all these things. Look, I'm batting now from a position of strength. I can get out there, talk to the membership, get people rallying ready for the next election. It's something I do on a regular basis anyway. I go out and meet the membership. I was in Taunton last week. I was in Halifax the week before. And it's getting people interested. In normal grassroots Tories, not just necessarily members, they are interested in, what I've got to say. And I get this all the time. You know that, Dan. By being on your show each Wednesday, I get really good feedback. I feel like, I am a voice for a lot of people out there. And obviously the Tory party think that as well, or they wouldn't have given them this brilliant opportunity. But it's all to play for. The next election is, the Labour Party will hate this appointment. I've been inside their camp. I know what they think. I know what they say. They will hate this with a passion. Believe me, they'll be crawling out of the woodwork over the next week or two. Look, and like I say, that's fair enough. Come and have a go. But what I'm thinking of, Dan, I'm thinking about my children, thinking about my family, I'm thinking about my friends, I'm thinking about this country. And if Labour get into number 10, it's going to be a terrible time. I remember what it was like in the 70s when the unions were running the country. That's what the union paymasters are looking for in 18 months. Because if Labour do get in, we've got big problems. So this is a great chance for me to help, to help our party and help government get on the right track and get that message across. And let's say to people, look, yes, we've had a tough time, but we're trying our best and we will get it right in the end.
Well, look, I don't hold back, Lee, when it comes to Rishi Sunak, and I don't think he gets everything right. But this was a good appointment. This was a good appointment from Rishi today. I believe you speak for the people, you speak for the Red Wall, and you've got one hell of a job on your hands. You're going to have to keep us posted, though, Lee, because we want to see how your progress goes.
Listen, you've given me a great platform, Dan. I'm not going to forget my friends at GBNews, ever. Like I say, you've given me a good platform. You let me get my message across. Challenge me, when we're having difficult times. That's fair. That's what good broadcasters do. But yeah, Rishi's made a brave decision, judging by my inbox and the membership. I'm hoping it's the right decision. We're a broad church in the Conservative Party. Like I say, the membership, on the whole, are behind this appointment, and I've got a big debt to pay back now, and you can guarantee that I'm going to do my best to pay back the Conservative government and Rishi Sunak.
Well, look, Lee Anderson, good luck, Deputy Chair of the Conservative Party. But of course, we will still be speaking to you on a regular basis here on Dan Wootton Tonight. Lee, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Slightly later than planned, your latest GB News now. And our top story, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner has apologised for failings in the force after the sentencing of former officer David Carrick. The 48-year-old has been handed 36 life sentences and will serve a minimum of 30 years for sexual offences against a dozen women. Carrick pleaded guilty to 49 charges, including 24 counts of rape, all carried out whilst he was a serving officer. Sir Mark Rowley says he's determined to root out misconduct in the force.
People are going to be very shaken by this. I completely recognise that. We are determined to tackle this. Most of our people are great people, but we've been too weak at getting rid of the ones who aren't. So you're going to see, month by month, changes as we remove those individuals, and you can report on that. I know my words today aren't enough. People have heard me talk about plans, and they're going to want to see the action that we take over forthcoming months, and they will see that.
Meanwhile, Lancashire police say it still believes Nicola Bulley fell into the River Wyre while she was out walking her dog 11 days ago. The underwater search for the mother of two has continued throughout today. The force is also investigating around 500 new lines of inquiry, although so far has not found any evidence of criminality. Superintendent Sally Riley said this afternoon they're not ruling anything out.
We remain fully open to any information that is credible and factual to try and trace Nicola and bring answers for her family. But it does remain our belief that Nicola sadly fell into the river and that this is a missing person inquiry.
International news, and the Foreign Secretary says 3 British people are missing following the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. Rishi Sunak has also pledged the UK's support to Turkey's President Erdogan following the disaster that has killed more than 7,000 people in the country and in neighbouring Syria. A British search and rescue team with 77 members with specialist equipment and dogs is currently assisting with the rescue effort in country. The first 7.8 magnitude just a few hours later. Now, as you've been hearing on Dan Wootton's show, the Prime Minister has revealed his new cabinet following a reshuffle. He also created 4 new departments. Greg Hands takes over as the new Conservative Party chairman after Nadeem Zahawi was sacked. Kemi Badenoch is the new Business and Trade Secretary. Lucy Fraser has become the Culture Secretary, taking over from Michelle Donnellan, who's been made a new Science and Technology Secretary. And the Business and Trade Culture departments have been broken down into separate units, with Grant Shapps now the Energy Security Secretary. That's all from me from now. I'm back in an hour. Now back to Dan.
Scheming Sturgeon's independence dream is crumbling, and that is a great thing for Scotland and the security of our union. The disastrous First Minister's desire to be world queen of woke, even if it puts the safety of Scottish women at risk, will now be her undoing. It's Sturgeon's poll tax moment. But unlike Thatcher, she isn't pursuing the destruction of women's rights for ideological reasons, but rather to enhance her own reputation on the international stage. That's morally wrong. And no wonder Scots, even staunch independence supporters, by the way, have now had enough. But as I've said, Sturgeon doesn't really care about Scottish independence. She cares about herself. A stunning intervention from her one-time mentor turned Dutch nemesis Alex Salmond sums up how, quote, self-indulgent nonsense of the Gender Recognition Reform Bill has undone a 30-year, slow-growing political movement.
Get to a position where you say to a majority of our people that you cannot have single-sex spaces prized and worked and strived for because of some daft ideology. The 6% decline in independence vote over a month. And think about that. 30 years of gradually building, till we get independence over 50% and then throw it away in some self-indulgent nonsense. Which, even if it was right, which it isn't, would hardly be tactically the most astute manoeuvre.
Now, I don't agree with Salmond politically at all. Scottish separatism is a folly. But his diagnosis of Sturgeon's political failure is absolutely correct. She is now a laughingstock. Just look at how she's finally been pulled apart by complacent Scottish media so easily this past week.
I don't see how it's possible to have a rapist within a female prison. This individual case, it's not about whether they are trans or not. In this individual case, this is a person who's been convicted of rape.
Trans women are women, but in the prison context, there is no automatic right for a trans woman.
So there are contexts where a trans woman is not a woman?
No, there is.
I'm not going to get into the individual circumstances of that particular individual's claims to be a woman, because I don't have enough information about that. The key factor in this case is not the individual's claim to be a woman. The key and in fact, only important factor in this case is that the individual has been convicted of rape. My comments about her, the person being a rapist is in context of what should happen to them within the prison service.
I think you just referred to Isla Bryson using the word her. Does that mean you do, in fact, think she is a woman?
Anything into... I am trying to rationally...
individual,
Look,
but you started saying her. Do you regard Isla Bryson as a woman?
Regards herself as a woman. I regard the individual as a rapist.
No wonder her biggest supporters can no longer defend Sturgeon. And no wonder support for Scottish separatism is plummeting too, as Sturgeon's loopy and nonsensical promises are revealed as a mirage. Now we learn Labour's Welsh government under Mark Drakeford is planning a similar policy intervention. More fool him. But again, I embrace what's happening here. Britons are starting to wake up to the very real dangers of a potential Labour SNP coalition from hell coming soon to Westminster. To respond now, my superstar panel. Top Daily Mail columnist and broadcaster Amanda Platel, Conservative commentator the Reverend Calvin Robinson, and the author and broadcaster Rebecca Reid. Look, Amanda, there's not much that I agree with Alex Salmond on, but he summed up what Sturgeon has done perfectly.
That overstuffed little haggis has just stuffed herself. In the months since she's launched this, he, she, you know, actually, if someone rapes, if a human being, a person, whatever she wants to call them, rapes a woman, that means a penis is involved, that means he's a man.
But she was saying herself, she was actually referring to Adam Graham as a woman.
I know. And then, but my view is, actually, when it comes to rape, and if you commit an act as a man with a working penis upon a woman, then that is, you know, I mean, we're getting ourselves tied up in knots here. She's stuffed herself politically. She's basically lost, in the months since she's pursued this campaign, she has lost 6 or 7% in the polls, and more importantly, in the polls of people who want to vote for a free Scotland. And that's the kind of... Because what she's done, you know, we've talked about this sometimes before, lowers the vote to 16 in Scotland, even wants to allow people to be able to legally drink in Scotland at 16, even though they have twice the alcohol deaths of the whole of Europe. Work that one out. She's obsessed with the young vote because she thinks she can get them to support her. But what's happening now is you're seeing an older demographic, which are the people that mostly vote, who are just thinking, this all feels really uncomfortable. And so she's merged these two really important issues. Well, one not important issue and one very important issue on independence. And as I said, she stuffed herself.
Rebecca Reid, she has, hasn't she? Because all of a sudden, Scottish people are thinking, hang on a moment, this woman doesn't really care about separatism. You know, this is all about advancing an extreme, hard-left woke agenda, which is putting Scottish women at risk.
No, I think it would be inaccurate to say that Nicola Sturgeon doesn't care about separatism. I think she cares about it. I'm not saying she doesn't also care about the other stuff, but she very, very, very deeply wants Scottish independence. I think that's deep inside her.
Do you think it's her priority now, though? Because
I think it absolutely is. I think she misjudged how to get there, and
Exactly.
I think she felt that this trans issue was a sort of hot button one that was a clear-cut thing, and there was clearly a meeting that went wrong because they put on a whiteboard, what can we do, trans, and then tried to make that the vehicle, and whose idea it was to use a convicted rapist as the hero of a campaign.
Double rapist.
It's really confusing, apart from the fact that I suppose every time anybody tries to have a conversation about trans rights on television, it always goes wrong, because you get bogged down in who has a penis and who doesn't, and who has a cervix and who doesn't. So maybe she was hoping that it would be too confusing with a conversation and would all just let them leave.
It always goes wrong because it's nonsensical. It's a nonsensical argument, isn't it, that a man can become a woman or a woman can become a man.
I don't think it's nonsensical.
But for months, she tried to tell us that the safety of Scottish women was not at risk through her hard left extreme position on trans rights. And I think all Scots have now woken up to the fact that what Adam Graham did could now be done time and time again, thanks to the gender recognition reform bill.
But you and I have been talking about this for a long time and warning Nicola Sturgeon this would be the consequence. It's not one that I want to be proved right on.
Yeah, but she would have just called you a turd.
Well, exactly. But, I mean, she can't even... You said she was identifying the Adam as a woman. She was implying, but she wouldn't even say Adam is a woman or Adam is a man.
But called Adam her.
Up. She said herself.
She said her. But it seems to me that Nicola Sturgeon thinks there are now 3 genders, men, women and rapists.
Well, it was a clever... to be fair, it was a fairly sensible dodge. It's what I would have done in her position.
It didn't work.
It was better than... It was the best option she had.
But why is... you know, it kind of makes you think, why is Nicola Sturgeon so confused about what it is to be a woman? I'm just wondering, Dan.
Steady on.
I'm not being... I'm not saying anything about the haircut.
I think it is a... That's not what makes somebody a woman, Amanda. Let's not be mean. People's hair.
Are you accusing me of being mean, Rebecca? Yeah, what does make someone mean?
Calvin.
No,
come on.
I don't know. I'm confused. I feel differently about it on different... Yes, I know what makes me a woman.
So you can't answer what is a woman. You literally cannot.
I feel differently about it.
I can certainly answer what it is to be a man. Promise me.
Yeah, I can
I
imagine.
don't know what makes somebody a man. No, but seriously, what makes somebody a man?
A man has a penis.
Okay, but if you
If a bloke rocked up at my house and took his kid off and there was nothing there, I would say, there's the door, sweetheart.
If you lose your penis in a terrible accident, you're still a man, right? Or aren't you?
Well,
See,
but that's a very good point.
Yes,
that's a very good point.
If you have a hysterectomy, you're still a woman, yes?
I don't think a guy who lost his penis in an accident would be on Bumble. I just don't think.
I think it's more complicated.
Where is this going, Dan? Take control.
I'm completely, genuinely awestruck and blown away. I very much appreciate your honesty, Rebecca Reid, but it shocks me, and I think this is where the left are eating themselves, because I think people at home will be screaming at the television right now, saying,
right now.
Rebecca Reid, you know what a woman is.
No, I know.
Just say it. You know what a woman is. Come on, say it. Say it.
I feel confused about it. I do. I feel
But is this
genuinely
because you're trying to be nice to people that aren't women?
No, it's not that. It's because if you have a mastectomy, you're still a woman. If you have a hysterectomy, you're still a woman. If you're born with not a classically shaped vagina, you're still a woman. I don't know what one thing it is that makes somebody a woman.
An adult human female.
That's the one thing.
I don't know.
That is the one thing that
Adult human
changes
female.
it.
Rebecca
How do you define female?
The XX chromosomes.
But how do you know what
The female of the
chromosomes? But how do you know?
species.
I don't know what chromosomes I have.
But you don't have to see
I've never checked.
Goodness me! All right, we're going to stop this biology lesson. This is why scheming Sturgeon's losing the support.
Babies know the
Scottish
difference.
people. Rebecca Reid, Calvin Robinson, Amanda Patel, my superstar panel, are here all night. But the Fox report is still to come too. And with a group of leading childcare experts warning that the Me Too movement has demonised our schoolboys, does woke victim culture pose a threat to our children and masculinity? Lawrence Fox live on that at 9:35. Next in the Clash. Who should attend King Charles's upcoming coronation? One, both, or neither of the shameless Sussexes Harry and Meghan. Royal biographer Ingrid Stewart goes up against stateside royal expert Kinsey Schofield and commentator and journalist Rebecca Toomey. But we've got a big poll running on this now. Go and vote at GB News on Twitter. The results straight after the break.
He's the king of breakfast TV, and he's back. Eamon Holmes, back on the TV
Surprised
with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. You have holy water by your bed?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good.
Already to bless.
Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions are, those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Co. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank. My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's time for The Clash. The King's coronation conundrum has rumbled on this week, with the Sussex's attendance proving a never-ending headache for the palace. The King and Prince of Wales are said to be working together on the matter. However, while Charles desires unity, William is still understandably furious over his brother's vicious attacks against him. One plan reportedly in the works, dubbed Operation Harry in a Hurry, Harry in a Hurry, got that confused, would see the Duke whisked in and out of Britain for just 48 hours. But the King is now being warned that if Harry attends alone, it could add further fuel to Meghan's anti-palace fire. So, with the royal family in a perpetual crisis over the Sussex situation, what's the best case scenario? So we're going to give you three options here. Number one, that Prince Harry attends the coronation alone. Number two, that the toxic Sussexes are forgiven for their attempts to bring down the monarchy and are able to attend together. Number three, neither of them allowed anywhere near this historic occasion. We've got a poll running on this at GB News on Twitter. The results shortly, but to help you make up your mind, and each of our guests tonight backing one of those positions, Editor-in-Chief of Majesty magazine, Ingrid Seward, US royal commentator, Kinsey Schofield, and the entertainment correspondent, Rebecca Toomey. So, Kinsey, I'm going to start with you because you're the toughest on this, aren't you? You say you don't want Harry or Meghan there. You want them to stay in your neck of the woods.
That's right. I think that if we look at the abdication of Edward VIII, he was basically exiled. He continued to try to disrupt the royal family behind the scenes and undermine them. But the royal family, they kept their distance. They focused on their core, and it ultimately strengthened the brand. I think that the royal family should do the same with Harry and Meghan. I think they're very destructive. If you would have asked me a year ago, I wouldn't have had the same opinion. But their actions as of late, it's changed perception of Harry and Meghan, not only in the States, but globally. So I do think that they should stay at home, that they're a distraction, and they're very destructive towards specifically William and Catherine.
Ingrid Seward, you're not quite as tough as that. I mean, I have to say, I'm with Kinsey. I don't want either of them there. But you think this Harry in a hurry plan is a good one, Ingrid? Just have Harry come in quickly and then leave, no Meghan?
Well, the whole point is that the coronation is a religious ceremony. The crowning and anointing of a king. That king is Harry's father. He has to be there. he has commanded. The invitation says, by command of the king. The Earl Marshal is requested to invite you. Now, Harry, for all his bravado and all his snipes at his family, and in particular his brother, I don't think that he is brave enough or would even want to turn down that kind of invitation. And I think that they should both come. I'm not saying I like the idea, but I think they should. I think they should both come. They should behave. I think they will be completely overawed by the whole ceremony, by the whole weekend. And I think they will keep quite quiet. No one will be interested in them disrupting anything because we'll all be overawed by this amazing ceremony. And I know that 78% of people really don't want them here, but it's not up to us. It's really up to Charles the King.
Rebecca Toomey, you go totally the other way, and you actually think both these disruptors should be at the coronation. You want both Harry and Meghan there. Why? Why? They're just going to cause chaos, aren't they?
Well, it's going to cause chaos whatever happens, Dan. And I think the main thing is, with Meghan, whatever she does or doesn't do seems to cause an awful lot of offence. If we just remember during Spare Harry's controversial autobiography, let's call it that, Meghan was nowhere to be seen. There were lots of headlines saying, where was she? She's not supporting him. So if Meghan doesn't make it to the coronation, there'll be lots of, she's got it against the royal family. She can't let bygones be bygones and move on. I think it's going to put the attention in the wrong direction. And it should really just be on King Charles and the coronation and a positive celebration, because whatever Meghan does, everyone's going to attack her. So it might just be better if she comes.
Kinsey, I just don't buy that, though. I don't buy that, because if they're here, right, if they're here for those days of the coronation, or even if Harry's here, what is going to dominate the coverage? What's the body language like between William and Harry? Where do they sit? Does William shoot him an evil stare? Do they try and hijack the official formalities by staging their own walkabout, like they wanted to do, by the way, after the late Queen's funeral, or before the late Queen's funeral, but actually William and Kate stepped in quite rightly and said, hang on a moment, no, you're not going on a walkabout on your own. We will accompany you. I don't trust them, Kinsey. I don't trust them not to try and turn the coronation into their own publicity fest.
Remember the candlestick? We were all engrossed with the placement of the candlestick at the Queen's funeral because it was conveniently placed right in front of Meghan Markle's face. No, I think you're right. It's not just that, Dan. It's not just what happens at the coronation. It's 6 months later. It's 12 months down the line. When season 2 of Harry and Meghan comes out, when chapters 473 of Spare volume 97 come out. It's the idea that this should be a celebration for King Charles. He's waited his entire life for this. And, everybody around them is going to be nervous about what they say and what they do because they don't want their thoughts, their words or their actions exposed by two people that can't keep a secret.
How do you justify that? Because I actually think what Kinsey's just said, Ingrid's just dropped out, Sally, but I actually think what Kinsey just said is very, very accurate, because we actually now have categorical proof, Rebecca, to me, that they will do that. In Spare, Harry actually quoted directly from a conversation that he had with then Prince Charles, now King Charles, in the hours after Charles had buried his father, Prince Philip, and he quoted him word for word. That stinks, Rebecca, and how on earth can any member of the royal family ever trust having a private conversation with Harry again after that?
Yeah, and Dad, I'm not going to debate that. I'm not going to debate that sense of betrayal. What I would say is let's remember Prince Andrew and let's just put things in perspective a little bit. What Harry did and what Prince Andrew did, the shame he's put on his family, they're not comparable. So I think Prince Andrew can't escape this. But one thing about
Prince Andrew won't be on the balcony, Rebecca, to me. He ain't going to be on the balcony, Prince Andrew.
No, he's not. But one of the things with the royal family is that they're trying to modernise, they're trying to appeal. And lots of people, and I understand why they say this, is that Meghan and Harry have actually trashed that. But what's happening is as the royal family modernise, they've become more like celebrities. They're more icons. And what comes with celebrity is headlines, is drama, is the analysis of a candle being placed in a certain way. And Meghan Markle is a glamorous, attractive, controversial woman. And that's what people like to talk about, whether we like it or not. The narrative...
But that doesn't
course.
He has the right to talk about private conversations that have happened between her and Kate Middleton. That doesn't, she is glamorous. She is beautiful. Nobody's debating that. That doesn't mean she can be a backstabber. I mean, I understand what you're saying. We're all going to talk about Meghan Markle. That doesn't justify her behavior. Their behavior is absolutely ludicrous and uncomparable to Prince Andrew, because Prince Andrew isn't going on TV going, I'd love to tell you about the secret text I had with Kate.
Yeah, indeed. Ingrid Stewart, do you want to weigh in on that? Because we've got her back.
I lost you for a minute. I don't. You're talking about Prince Andrew now?
Yeah, we're talking about Kinsey's making the point that actually the thing with Prince Andrew, while he's not going to be on the balcony, he hasn't broken any trust with the other members of the royal family. He's not publishing private conversations had between King Charles and Prince Harry in the hours after his father's funeral, which I just thought, I have to be honest, Ingrid, I thought it was probably the most grotesque moment of spare, and there's many of them, as we know.
I totally. When he was talking, they all went to Frogmore together, and Harry wrote verbatim exactly
immediately after Prince Philip's funeral.
Well, I just think that Harry is so focused on Harry that, he never gave a thought to anything else. And I think, Prince Andrew, Prince Andrew could yet write his own biography. We don't know what he's going to do, but I don't think he would ever kind of talk about his family, the royal family, in that way, because he's older, he's been brought up a different way. I just find that Harry's whole outlook on this book was extraordinary, that he should be so disloyal, not only to his family, but to, many other people that, have passed through his life.
Indeed. And look, there's lots of problems with Prince Andrew. Of course, we talk regularly on the show about that situation too, because there's now an attempt to rehabilitate him. I think we can all agree that Prince Andrew's attendance at the coronation will not overshadow the coronation in the same way that the attendance of Harry and Meghan may well. But look, fascinating debate. That was Editor-in-Chief of Majesty Magazine. Glad we got you back, Ingrid Stewart. The US royal commentator Kinsey Schofield and entertainment correspondent Rebecca Toomey. So who do you agree with there? With the royal family in a perpetual crisis over the Sussex situation, what's the best case scenario? Well, Vanessa on Twitter says they shouldn't attend because they can't be trusted. From Narinda, they both must and will attend. And George says invite Harry and Meghan, and if they turn it down, they can't turn it against you. Your verdict now in. So there's three choices here. Just 8% of you think Harry should attend alone. 9% of you think Harry and Meghan should both be at the coronation. But 83% of you, an overwhelming number, say neither of them should attend. And I have to say, I'm with you on that. Stay away. Coming up, with a BBC journalist due to give away £100,000 as reparations for her family's historic links to slavery. Is that simply victimhood culture gone mad? Our very own Nana Aquia live in the studio on this at 9:50. But first, with experts warning that the excessive Me Too movement is damaging and demonising teenage lads, is woke lefty culture destroying a generation of British boys? Well, Lawrence Fox, he's going to join me for a very important Fox report on this straight after the break.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind, and we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance.
Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store? You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Time now for the Fox Report with Lawrence Fox, and a group of leading child experts has warned of the tragic impact an excessive crackdown inspired by the Me Too movement has had on the lives of schoolboys. Criminal defence lawyer Sandra Paul told the Sunday Times that the newfound ease of reporting behaviour that could be interpreted as sexually inappropriate has created a culture in which schoolboys as young as 14 are being suspended from schools for behaviour as mild as unwelcome brushing up against someone in the lunchtime queue. Leading childhood psychotherapist Julie Lynn Evans also warned that boys' lives are being destroyed by an excessive culture shift in the wake of Me Too, and that she now exclusively sees young boys who have been ostracised by their peers for behaviour she describes as fumbling at worst. Now, the issue of sexual safety in British schools is nothing to be scoffed at, of course. 2021 Ofsted report found that 79% of girls said sexual assault happens a lot or sometimes between people their age at secondary schools and college. But Lawrence Fox, there's a balance to be had here, isn't there? And do you think we risk demonising schoolboys with our attempts to really push some of the, the orthodoxy that has developed after the Me Too into schools?
I think we're in danger, Dan, of seeing the repercussions of what happens when you hypersexualise children via the woke movement and via the sort of parasitical way that the woke movement seeks to sexualise children. And we're hearing reports over and over again now of kids being taught all this stuff in a lesson and then going outside and trying it in the playground. And we're witnessing a war on male and female fundamentally here. And it's very, very worrying. You know, boys need to be taught and encouraged to be boys that are going to turn into men. And of course, we stand wholeheartedly against any form of sexual abuse by anybody. But kids shouldn't be sexual objects anyway. So I blame the wokeists for yet another parasitical, horrible assault on humanity.
That's actually a very good point. But what do we do practically, Lawrence? I mean, you're a dad. You must worry about this sort of thing, because I'm hearing from lots of parents who say actually, good contributor on this show, Celia Walden, wrote in the Daily Telegraph on this and said that her stepson's friends are now too terrified to even get a taxi home with a female friend because there could be false allegations made. It's almost like boys are living in a culture of total paranoia, and we have seen lots of false allegations in the media ruin people's lives because of the length of time our justice system takes to work.
Well, it's dreadful also that women who are sexually abused, much more than men are having to be put in this situation. But you're hearing in America, what's happening is people are having consensual sex underneath, when they're drunk or, under the influence of various things, and they're waking up earlier than each other to report each other for rape. The thing is, boys and girls fumble around. That's what happens when they're young. And we cannot put a definition on everything all the time. And this mental health crisis, which is coming about as a result of all these dreadful tablets and phones, of which my children and everyone else's children are on them, it's just very, very sad. What we should do, in my view, and what Bad Education is going to do, we're going to launch Bad Education coming next week, is we need to have some civic-minded education that is built around the responsibilities of men and women. They're two totally separate beings, and they have two totally separate strengths, and in combination with each other, they make the most wonderful combination for which children to grow up in. We should not pass on the responsibility of raising our children to the state.
So your plan, your Bad Education plan, what will that involve? Because where will it be done? Do you see what I mean? Is this something that parents should be taking on themselves?
Well, first of all, I polled last week. Our polling's just come through last week. 72% of parents are very against a lot of the things that we presented them as what children are being taught in school. But also, 72% of them don't know what their children are being taught in school. So first and foremost, it's an awareness issue. Your children are no longer going to school and in loco parentis being looked after and taught how to think and what to think. They're being indoctrinated. They're being told about masturbation, anal sex, all of this sort of stuff at very young ages, which as adults we can completely deal with. But at young ages, of course, they're going to go out into the playground afterwards and have a try of this stuff. It's just, it's a complete, I mean, it's, we saw it with Sam Smith. I mean, I don't really care about Sam Smith and his stupid song and his terrible costume, but we're sexualizing everything. And parents fundamentally really need to know that when their children go to school, they're not going to a place where they're being educated, they're going to a place where they're being turned into comrades. And until we can help parents understand that, which bad education via bad law are going to do, we have a problem. That's what we have.
Absolutely fascinating stuff, Lawrence Fox with the Fox Report. Thank you so much. But coming up in tonight's Media Buzz, as another nationwide nursing strike continues, are these unions immoral to say that they're going to continue action for the next 3 months, regardless of the threat to patient safety? Well, my superstar panel very worked up about that. They're going to have their say alongside tomorrow's newspaper front pages. But first, with a BBC journalist giving away money and flying to the Caribbean to personally apologise for her ancestors' links to historic slavery, is this virtue signalling gone mad? Hard-hitting broadcaster Nana Aquia live with me in the studio straight after the break.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance.
Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Nana Acquair is tonight's outsider. Now, in case you needed reminding that the BBC is a breeding ground for woke journalists, the US correspondent Laura Trevelyan has announced that her aristocratic family will donate £100,000 to the Caribbean island of Grenada as reparations for their historic connections to slavery. A bit of digging, however, shows that the Trevelyans were paid compensation of near £27,000 during the abolition of slavery in 1834, equivalent to about £2.7 million in today's money, a lot more than £100,000. Plus, with the population of the island around 125,000, the donation isn't enough for each citizen to even receive £1. Now, Trevelyan's vain virtue signalling should probably come as no surprise, considering only a few months ago she starred in her own documentary commissioned by the Beeb that included moments like this.
In 1834, my family received the equivalent of £3 million in compensation, and the slaves received nothing. Do you think that my family should pay money in reparations to the people of Grenada?
The British government, first of all, must apologize wholeheartedly with regards to the role that it played in the slave trade and slavery. And not just the British government. We cannot live out the monarchy. Yes, we cannot live out the Queen of England.
Nana Acquair, to me, this just feels like another rich white liberal trying to assuage their guilt.
You know, I actually get quite annoyed by this. And this, to me, is exactly what you said. It's a form of almost maintaining the narrative that we are better than you. Do you know what I mean? When I hear... It's people like this all the time coming in and saying, oh, we white people, we have done you wrong. You are inferior to us. Years ago, the slave trade happened. We're so sorry. We're going to give you a little bit of money to make up for it. Listen, if she's that serious about it, first of all, she should give away all the money, if she's that serious about it. But as I was reading about this, it didn't take me long to get to the words white privilege. So it's perpetuating a narrative of superiority and perpetuating a victim mentality for black people. And I, for one, am quite sick of it. We need to, as you know, people need to understand that the slave trade was not just perpetuated by white people. The Africans, black people, sold their people to become slaves. It was a trade, it was a terrible trade, but it was perfectly legal. And now, years later, we look on it and think that is disgraceful.
And no one's asking for reparations from any African nations or organisations or businesses, are they? So it does feel like this is targeted specifically against white folk.
And as Laura is speaking, she's probably using mobile phones and other technology where slavery is being perpetuated in producing a lot of the items that she's currently using. So I find this complete hypocrisy that she's even saying, oh, we should pay back because of the terribleness of us, yet she's probably wearing clothes that were made in a sweatshop somewhere, maybe in India. She's using her mobile phone, which has probably got components mined by slaves. She may well have an electric car if she's that much of a virtue signal as she will have, and obviously the cobalt and lithium and the things that are being mined by slaves. It is just the typical narrative that you hear from people like this, trying to show that they have an affinity for people of colour and that they are now making up for it now, having benefited from it. There is... Sorry, Dan.
Well, and I'm just going to say, her 100,000, by the way, ain't going to do a thing. So I think it is a virtue signalling exercise to make herself feel better, but also so she's spoken about as one of these woke lefties who say that everyone should pay reparations, including, by the way, Great Britain, the UK, that we should be bankrupt. And I'm sorry, Nana, we don't have the money.
Well, not only that, but how far do you want to go back? I mean, I'm sure there was a time when white people were slaves and black people were perpetuating the other part of it. Look, we cannot keep going backwards. I cannot be held responsible for the actions of my daughter or my dad or the person before then or the person before then. I will learn from my own mistakes and draw my own conclusions. But repatriations, I think that it's one of those ever-increasing numbers. It will never end, and it is a ridiculous... She's virtue signalling.
Very well put, Nana Acquia, who is, of course, back here 4 p.m. Saturday on GB News. But coming up, as the MSM is accused of Disney-fying Shamima Begum's tale of terror, has the ISIS bride turned BBC podcast star been granted twisted celebrity status by the left? Terror expert and author Chip Chapman gives his thoughts at 10:20. But first, with nurses putting patient safety at serious risk by walking out again, are they immoral to say that they will continue action for up to 3 months? My superstar panel weigh in on this, and we'll have tomorrow's newspaper front pages for you. We're back in just 2 minutes' time.
He's the king of breakfast TV, and he's back. Eamon Holmes, back on the TV
Surprised
with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. You have holy water by your bed?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good.
Already to bless.
Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Click that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions are, those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, nurses have been staging life-threatening walkouts for the second day in a row, with cancelled treatments and operations now soaring past the 100,000 mark. So can this disturbing strike action really be justified any longer? That's the big debate with my superstar panel next. Tonight, I'm joined by Amanda Platel, Calvin Robinson and Rebecca Reid. Rishi Sunak announced his mini-cabinet reshuffle and it was blockbuster because Westminster's toughest talking MP, our very own Lee Anderson, is the new deputy chair of the Tory party. But why is the left ready to internally combust over his promotion? Well, maybe it's because of stuff like this.
Well, does the Home Secretary agree with me? If the accommodation is not good enough for them, they can get on a dinghy and go straight back to France.
Yeah. My inbox is full of people complaining about the BBC all the time, saying it should be defunded.
More of Lee's greatest woke-baiting hits. There's plenty of them, believe me, coming up very shortly. As he's called to give evidence in the defamation case brought by Meghan's sister Samantha Markle, could Prince Harry end up getting caught in a web of his own lies? Esteemed biographer Tom Bauer gives his unflinching verdict on that and much more at 10:40. Plus, as the ISIS bride turned magazine cover girl attracts a growing media platform, former Major General Chip Chapman warns against a Disneyfication of Shamima's story. He explains why this terrorist should never be seen as a celebrity, live at 10:15. As our Chancellor Chairman High Tax Hunt touts the idea of a digital pound, is this just a dangerous step towards a cashless society where our finances are controlled by the state? And after Harry Styles claimed the top gong at the Grammys, why is this part of his acceptance speech under attack from the woke mob?
This doesn't happen to people like me very often, and this is so nice. Thank you very, very much.
I was left scratching my head too, by the way, but apparently that was Harry Styles exercising his white privilege. Yes, really. We explore both those stories in the Media Buzz at 10:30. And finally, is it a problem to you that Leonardo DiCaprio's girlfriend is younger than the film Titanic? Not for me, but I'll tell you why it's getting people riled up when we crown tonight's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass before the end of the show. We'll have the first front pages hot off the press in mere moments. First, though, Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you, and good evening to you. The top GB News story tonight. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner today apologised for failings in the force after the sentencing of former officer David Carrick. The 48-year-old has been handed 36 life sentences and will serve a minimum of 30 years for sexual offences against a dozen women. Carrick pleaded guilty to 49 charges, including 24 counts of rape, all carried out whilst he was a serving police officer. Sir Mark Rowley says he's determined to root out misconduct in the force.
People are going to be very shaken by this. I completely recognise that. We are determined to tackle this. Most of our people are great people, but we've been too weak at getting rid of the ones who aren't. So you're going to see, month by month, changes as we remove those individuals, and you can report on that. I know my words today aren't enough. People have heard me talk about plans, and they're going to want to see the action that we take over forthcoming months, and they will see that.
And Lancashire Police today said it still believes Nicola Bulley fell into the River Wyre whilst out walking her dog 11 days ago. The underwater search for the mother of two will continue again at first light tomorrow. The force is also investigating around 500 lines of inquiry. At a news conference this afternoon, Superintendent Sally Riley said they're not ruling anything out.
We remain fully open to any information that is credible and factual to try and trace Nicola and bring answers for her family. But it does remain our belief that Nicola sadly fell into the river and that this is a missing person inquiry.
International news, and King Charles has sent a message to President Erdogan of Turkey tonight saying he is shocked and profoundly saddened by the devastating earthquakes in Turkey and Syria, which have left over 7,000 people dead. Rishi Sunak has pledged the UK government's support as well, and Erdogan has declared a state of emergency for 3 months in the 10 worst affected cities. The Foreign Secretary earlier today confirmed 3 British people are missing and 35 others are directly affected by the quakes. A 77-strong British search and rescue team with specialist equipment and dogs is currently assisting with the rescue effort in the country. The first 7.8 magnitude quake hit yesterday morning, with a second quake measuring 7.5 arriving just a few hours later. And the Prime Minister revealed his new cabinet following a reshuffle today. He created 4 new departments. Greg Hands takes over as the new Conservative Party chairman after Nadhim Zahawi was sacked. Kemi Badenoch is the new Business and Trade Secretary. Lucy Fraser becomes Culture Secretary, taking over from Michelle Donnellan, who's been made new Science and Technology Secretary. The Business, Trade and Culture departments have been broken down into separate units, and Grant Shapps now heads up the Energy Security section as Secretary. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. You're with GB News. Back now to Dan Wootton tonight.
Tomorrow's news tonight now on our Media Buzz. Straight to the front pages. A scar on our police leads the Metro after former officer David Carrick was jailed for life for using and abusing his role to attack 12 vulnerable victims. The Guardian also leads on that monster, reporting that his position in the police made him believe he was untouchable. The Independent, however, goes with just the most awful story. Rescue workers in a race against time to find survivors after the Turkey and Syrian earthquakes. 20,000 feared dead. And gosh, believe me, growing up in New Zealand, you know the risks of these earthquakes, and this is one of the worst in a very long time. My superstar panel back with me now. Top Daily Mail columnist Amanda Plattel, the Conservative commentator the Reverend Calvin Robertson, and the author Rebecca Reid. Now, in what is becoming an all too frequent occurrence, nurses have been striking for a second day in a row this week. And despite these disturbing walkouts being normalised, it cannot be forgotten that innocent British lives have been put at risk again all day. So thus far, as you know, the Health Secretary Steve Buckley rightly refusing to negotiate a deal before the 2023-24 financial year begins in April. So the union barons have threatened to strike for the next 3 months. And yesterday, General Secretary of the Royal College of Nursing, Pat Cullen, claimed that there was no clock on how long the walkouts could last.
They will continue to do this for as long as it takes for this government to actually waken up and listen to their voice, and listen to their voice on behalf of patients.
Well, the nurses certainly aren't speaking on behalf of patients and taxpayers like me. I mean, is she speaking for you, Rebecca Reid? Are you happy with 3 more months of these strikes?
Yeah, I'm happy with the nurses striking as long as they need.
Would you be happy if one of your family members died as a result of these strikes?
Has anybody died as a result of these strikes?
I believe so.
Do you believe so, or it's been demonstrated?
Well, I believe, in my life, I know of one person who has died not because of the nurses' strikes, but because of the ambulance strikes. A courier driver, I told this story on the show the other day, who was left in his car after a heart attack after 1 hour. Now, my suspicion on this is that the MSM don't want to look for these cases because it doesn't fit the narrative. So my belief is that people are dying as a result of these strikes.
I mean, my belief is that Taylor Swift is better than Shakespeare. Like, we all have our beliefs, but that's not something that's been demonstrated.
I've given you one example.
That's the ambulance strike, and there's an ambulance shortage as well. So that is a massive issue in and of itself.
Okay, but you know that operations are being cancelled.
Absolutely.
So if operations on, for example, cancer patients are being cancelled, that kills, Rebecca.
Part of the reason they're striking is for better safety standards, because they're worried about their patients. People are dying as a lack of result of investment, of a lack of result of proper pay, as a result of a lack of proper pay, as a result of... People are dying for all sorts of reasons, which are not including the fact that nurses want to be paid a fair living wage. These people are not servants. They deserve to be paid properly and fairly for the incredibly important work
they do. They're public servants. But
they're not servants.
No. Of course they're not servants, but they're public servants and they're paid for by taxpayers, Amanda Plattel. And look, we all love nurses, of course we do, but when are we going to start to speak out against this nonsense that's killing people?
Can we just stop prefacing everything we say about nurses as we all love nurses? I've had some horrible experiences in the NHS with nurses. One example, I'm going in for a scan and the woman puts a jelly on my tummy, too much detail, and then she looks at my notes, chucks it on the table and says, "You've already had 2 scans, get up and get out." That is exactly what happened to me in the NHS, in the Royal Free Hospital.
But this
I've
is
had
actually-
terrible experiences, and what I'm sick to death is this narrative at the moment, which is what it's changed from. It started off as a debate about their pay, which I actually think they should get a pay increase, but not an inflation-busting one. But now, every single time you get an expert or, you know, one of the union bosses coming out, they say, it's all about the patient's safety, and we're only doing this to try and save the patients. That is completely bullshit. And what they also say is that we are so underfunded. OK, one fact. I know you love the fact, Dan.
Oh, I do.
They say the Tories have completely killed off funding to the NHS. OK, under Labour, the last government, in 2009, 2010, they put £96 billion into the NHS. Guess what it is now? 180 billion, more than double, and the standard of care has gone down. And none of the nurses will take any accountability for this. They're also stressed. We all get stressed in our jobs. You know, it's not like...
Look, I'm the first person to admit that the NHS is not run efficiently or perfectly, but you can't...
Double the funding, Rebecca.
No, and you could... It's been demonstrated you could literally spend infinite money on the NHS and still need more. But my point is, what people want people to do is the nurses just work harder and harder and harder and just run them into the ground. And
no, we just want them to do their jobs properly.
But their jobs
Most of them are on 40k a year. They're not on Tesco wages.
This is about pay. This is about pay. It's about pay.
It's all it's about. It's about pay.
In other ways, it is about pay as well.
Is this becoming immoral now? Because what is actually worrying me is that this is normalised. We're actually starting to accept that it's OK for nurses and for ambulance workers. They were on strike yesterday, nurses. They're on strike again today. That mad woman, that awful woman, Pat Cullen, saying 3 more months of this. How many people are we going to accept are going to die as a result of these strikes before there's moral outrage about this?
There should be moral outrage. None of the care professions should be legally allowed to strike.
I agree.
It is immoral. But
police are not allowed to strike, the armed forces
But this situation isn't binary, as Rebecca's painting it. That doesn't mean that the Tories don't have to make sure that the working conditions are good. It doesn't mean that the Tories don't have to pay nurses well. These things all matter together. Nurses shouldn't be allowed to strike, but their working conditions should be good and they should be paid well.
But how do you make sure that you get paid well and that your working conditions are good without the right to strike? The only reason that we have any of those things in the first place is because of the right to strike.
That is not true. People don't get paid well just because they strike.
A lot of the things that we have, like ample fire exits,
we live in a democracy.
are a result of unions.
If you want to say, look, I think nurses should be paid more, you can stand on a democratic platform and people will vote for that.
But in my lifetime, nothing I've ever voted for has ever come off. I've always been on the
I voted for Brexit and won, so it does... Democracy
Yeah, but come on, there's a kind of simple... There's a simple fact here that we've had 100,000 operations and procedures cancelled just so far from the nurses' strike. And they're all saying it's all about the patients, all about the patients.
That's not.
We've only had a few days of their strikes, and now they're planning to strike until May. Just take your virtual signalling away and admit this is all about money for you, and you don't give a damn about the patients you're letting down.
But you vote for the party. I vote for the party I think is going to do that every time, and they never win. So what can they do if they can't strike? Apart from wait 2 years for an election.
Do you think police should be able to strike?
I don't think we need a police force. They've been very clear about that.
Okay, I'm moving on.
Let's not go there.
Now, as part of today's mini-cabinet reshuffle, the Prime Minister named Greg Hands as the new Tory party chairman, but the real blockbuster announcement was the deputy chair. Westminster's toughest-talking MP, our very own Lee Anderson.
Sound.
Early in the show, in an exclusive interview, we heard Lee's very first reaction to his appointment.
Rishi's made a brave decision, judging by my inbox and the membership. I'm hoping it's the right decision. You know, we're a broad church in the Conservative Party. You know, like I say, the membership, on the whole, are behind this appointment, and I've got a big debt to pay back now, and you can guarantee that I'm going to be doing my best to pay back the Conservative government and Rishi Sunak.
Now, as if the news wasn't already pleasing enough, the left has been going into utter meltdown over Lee's promotion. The BBC's flagship bias broadcaster, Gary Lineker, made a pitiful attempt at sarcasm with fantastic appointment, followed by 2 laughing emojis. And listen to the sneering condescension, really, of The Guardian's political editor, Pippa Carrera, who wrote, Rishi Sunak appoints Lee Anderson, a red wall Rottweiler, as Deputy Conservative Chair. Many Tory MPs will feel the appointment of 30p Lee can only end one way. Because heaven forbid that the MSM establishment sees a working-class Tory rise through the ranks. The backlash is not surprising, given that Lee has permanently had the left on strings, starting with Carrera's tofu-eating woke colleagues at The Guardian. Watch.
Field, you'll probably get about 2 copies of The Guardian. There's a couple of weirdos by it. So what we normally do, if you see one of these floating around, is we just rip it up like that. Well, does the Home Secretary agree with me? If the accommodation is not good enough for them, they can get on a dinghy and go straight back to France.
Yeah.
My inbox is full of people complaining about the BBC all the time, saying it should be defunded. If we want to subsidise wages at the moment, let's start with the BBC. I think you're lot raking about £5 billion a year in. You've got Lineker earning £2 million. You've got other presenters earning millions of pounds. You're still a parasite, you're still a scrounger, and you're still a malignant. And I think some of our membership actually do like me. But I think the country needs reminding and my party needs reminding on what a working class Tory is.
Thank you so much for taking us into the real world. That was Westminster's toughest talking MP. Don't think he'll be on the phone to Pippa Crerar later, somehow. Rebecca Reid, Calvin Robinson, Amanda Patel. They're back with me soon. Thank you very much. But coming up, with high tax hunt floating the idea of a digital pound, is this a sinister cashless creep to our finances being centrally controlled by the state? We're going to thrash that one out at 10:30. But next, as Shamima Begum's BBC documentary launches and she perversely becomes a magazine cover girl, is the MSM guilty of making a celebrity of a monster? Former senior counter-terrorism officer and author Chip Chapman. He's with me live on this straight after the break.
He's the king of breakfast TV and he's back. Eamon Holmes back on the TV
Surprised
with me this morning.
Even remember my name.
I know, it's been 4 months. You have holy water by your bed?
Oh yes, already to bless.
Oh, Eamon. Oh.
Why do you not believe anything I say?
Eamon Holmes back on GB News Breakfast at 6 a.m.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you.
She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one.
Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance.
Now we're here to represent you.
Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank. My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, the twisted MSM rehabilitation of ISIS bride Shamima Begum's image took another grotesque turn this week after the runaway jihadist appeared as a cover girl for the Times magazine. The 23-year-old, who lost her British citizenship back in 2019 for joining the death cult, has been thrust back into the spotlight in recent weeks after she was given a platform by the shameless BBC in a podcast, and I still can't believe it was called this. I am not a monster. I beg to differ. And Begum's turn as a warped cover girl sparked outrage across the country as her dangerous new celebrity status fills ordinary Brits with fear. So why is the left so keen to present a terrorist sympathiser as some sort of victim whose story deserves to be told? Joining me now, former head of counter-terrorism at the Ministry of Defence, Major General Chip Chapman. Chip, great to have you on this. What do you make of what's going on here with Shamima Begum? Why is there a push to not only rehabilitate her, but to turn her into some sort of celebrity?
Well, Shamima Begum has become the product and they're selling her rehabilitation, and they're doing that by the way that you'd market a book. It is marketing, advertising, PR and rebranding to show her as a sort of normal person. And part of the reason for this, of course, is there is a legal case going on at the moment about whether she should have the right to come back to fight her citizenship case. Now, that's the key thing. It is not the fact that the government rescinded her citizenship in February 19. And I think they did that, of course, legally from their perspective, because under the 1961 UN Convention on Statelessness, you can't make someone stateless. They didn't. They used a legal term called jus sanguinis, which means inheritance through the father or the mother. And therefore, through her Bangladeshi upbringing or her parentage, she has dual citizenship. So rather like the other 150 people of the 900 who went to Syria to support ISIS, she had her citizenship revoked. So that is the
good
real
reason,
issue.
you know. Yeah, Sajid Javid, the Home Secretary at the time, said, believe me, if you know what I know, you would not want this woman as a British citizen. I mean, you say this is the total Disneyfication of Shamima's story. What do you mean by that?
Well, they're trying to turn her into something she wasn't, and for two reasons, really. Firstly, they're trying to say that she was a victim, and that she was trafficked. And secondly, they're saying she was groomed. Now, if you look at the chronology of this, so by September 14, we already had Jihadi John doing his evil deeds with his other Beatles, and Alan Henning, the British humanitarian worker, was beheaded. In 2011, or from 2011, with the Syrian civil war, the FCO had said that people shouldn't travel to Syria. So the sort of notion that she didn't know what was going on and that she fled Britain rather than willingly went to Syria is farcical. It's just not true in terms of that timeline. Now, under a thing called the Palermo Protocol, trafficking can be something that you do, and they will try and play on that. But trafficking must meet the notion that there is a threat or the use of force or other forms of coercion for you to be trafficked. And I don't see anything that with Shamima Begum. She went willingly. And the final part of the denouement from a counter-terrorist perspective is that 40% of people who went to Syria came back in the first year either disillusioned or knew it wasn't the city on the hill. She stayed there until the end. She was caught at Berguz, which is where the final stand of ISIS was. So, you know, we should have no truck with what she's trying to do in this sort of rebranding that she and other people are giving herself.
Indeed, absolutely. So Major General, we've got to think about why this is happening, because Jihadi Jack, who has been allowed back into Canada under the very liberal government of Justin Trudeau, there's no big media rehabilitation towards him. Now, I put it to you that that's because he is a white male. Just like if you were a white male who left the country to join a neo-Nazi organisation, there would not be a rehabilitation effort. It feels like because Shamima Begum is a Muslim woman, for some reason, there's more sympathy for what she's done. But I believe that what she's done is evil and dangerous, and her returning to the country would put British citizens under threat.
Well, she was a member of the Al-Hansa Brigade, which is an all-female police unit tasked with the enforcement of strict laws. So she wasn't a benign participant. She was an active participant. And certainly in terms of the revocation of her citizenship, it was the security threat and the risk to the UK which led to the intelligence agencies giving the information to the Home Secretary to rescind her citizenship. Now, I know from the people who were there when she was debriefed in Syria that they know what some of the things that she did. But of course, there's a difference between those things and revoking her citizenship and getting that in terms of evidence if you want to prosecute her. Now, of course, you could manage her return if you're saying that just because she was a Muslim and not white that she should be allowed back in. And she could be managed. There's certain things that you can do, a thing called the TEO, the Temporary Exclusion Order, to manage her to come back to the country. And she might win the court case to do so. That doesn't mean she wins her citizenship. And you could also use a TPIM, a temporary implementation management strategy to get her back to the UK. The larger strategic issue, of course, is that she is one of many, many people in the two camps in Hasaka province, which may have been affected actually at the moment by the earthquake, and they're in Al-Hol and Al-Raj. That is the more strategic issue. So the Americans, for example, would say there is a doomsday scenario where you still have 2,000 foreign fighters, 10,000 of their family, and alongside them, you have 50,000 Iraqis and Syrians, which somehow need to be dealt with. Otherwise, you get, from what the Americans' perspective, a doomsday scenario where you have a Camp Bucca or an Abu Ghraib, the womb that gives birth to new generations of extremists.
Yeah,
that's a difficult policy issue for the government to deal with.
I understand that, but the point is, if Begum comes back, the most famous ISIS bride in the world, what message are you sending to the young Muslim boys and girls in Bethnal Green right now who think, oh, yeah, I can defect, I can join a terrorist organisation. One day, if it all goes wrong, soft touch Britain will have me back. Absolutely not. So I agree with your points on this. The Disneyfication of Shamima Begum's story is just so wrong. Major General Chip Chapman, an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much. But coming up, with Prince Harry sensationally summoned to court to testify in a case brought against Meghan by her estranged sister Samantha Markle, could his web of lies be exposed under oath? Renowned royal author and one of the country's top journalists, Tom Bower, tackles this and much more at 10:45. But next, in the Media Buzz, as Chancellor Hunt pushes the future of a digital pound, would this be a risky step towards some sort of cashless society where governments control our finances? My superstar panel have their say on that straight after the break.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank. My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations. for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Let's return to tomorrow's news tonight now in our media buzz. More front pages has been delivered. The Eye first, race to find quake survivors, leads as the death toll in Turkey passes 7,200 with 400,000 seeking shelter in shopping centres, sports stadiums and mosques. So this is just a humanitarian crisis now. What a shocking, shocking story. Wow, this is an exciting announcement on the front page of The Sun. GB News' very own funny man and free speech advocate John Cleese is reviving his iconic sitcom Fawlty Towers. Probably the best of all time, I think we can say that. He will write and star as Badsy Fawlty alongside his daughter Camilla, and a bidding war is in the offing. And this is a shocking story. The Daily Mail leads with news that the Church of England is now debating whether to stop referring to the Almighty as He. In a ridiculous break from centuries of tradition, Anglican bishops are preparing to launch a major project on gendered language this spring. So I'm going to bring my superstar panel in on this. Top Daily Mail columnist Amanda Patel, the Conservative commentator, the Reverend Calvin Robinson, and the author and broadcaster Rebecca Reid. So Calvin Robinson, this story in the Daily Mail is going to shock many. So it was revealed by the Liturgical Commission that God in the Church of England will no longer be able to be called He.
I mean, you have to laugh, don't you? Because it's a heresy as old as time. And you can see what they're doing here. They're trying to be more inclusive, and I've seen people in the Church of England refer to God as her or Almighty Mother. These are heresies. God...
They're saying it may decide that in some prayers, including the Lord's Prayer, the phrase Our Father would have to be omitted.
You can't do that. It's just
But they change the Lord's Prayer all the time.
No, they don't change the Lord's Prayer. The Lord's Prayer is the
They
prayer that
changed
Christ
it.
himself
They changed
gave
the
to
Lord's
us.
Prayer, what, 5 years ago?
Yeah, they changed the Lord's Prayer.
Creed.
You can modernise the language from thou to and
That is
thou and thee.
changing.
In happy clappy churches where no one goes to. You know, kind of goes, oh, hey, bruv, who's up in some other place? How are you doing today? Forgive me for all that rubbish.
There's nothing more embarrassing than like the modern Bible. I fully
It is
agree with
just
you.
ridiculous.
You're a religious woman. Are you angry about this?
Listen, I'm a regular churchgoer. If they do this, I will cross the room into Catholic Church. I've already.
You're very welcome to
I am all well. Rebecca, then you end up with the Church of England, that doesn't have people like me who actually pay for it anymore.
But
you know, they are killing off. I mean, it is outrageous. This is the most depressing thing I've heard for a really long time.
You have warned for some time, including here on this show, that the Church of England is going woke. Do you think this is the ultimate example?
They're disregarding the Bible and everything. This week they are in the synod debating whether this should include homosexual marriage and homosexual blessing of relationships. They have disregarded the Bible on the ordination of women, on divorce, and now on God himself. I mean, God is not sexed. I'm not going to say God has a sex, but God has told us how to refer to him. He told us his pronouns. Do
you think
God the Father?
I think God is gender neutral because I think God isn't bound by the concept of man or woman. I think God is something separate, apart from when is made flesh. in which case I'll give you that Jesus was a bloke.
Hallelujah!
Fully man and fully God.
I just said that.
I know, I'm not saying you didn't.
My point is that the Bible has been compiled, recompiled, translated, it has.
No, this is a common misconception that people, translate it and then translate the translation, then translation. No, people go back to the source for the translations.
Okay, so the Apocrypha is not the Bible that we all currently use, right?
Yes, it is. This
no,
is the Bible.
there are books that are omitted in the classic.
No, the Deuterocanonical books are in the Bible. The Bible is a library of books.
So where's the Mary Magdalene bit that they took out? Where are all
the Mary Magdalene bit? I love
the Gnostics.
That only a person who is not a true believer says, "Where's the Mary Magdalene bit?"
I feel slightly out of
Becca's Catholic.
Yeah,
okay.
I do know.
But it's clearly lies.
This is going to explode.
Because it's just a heresy.
This is going to explode.
Insane.
The Church of England. But look, I've got to
show me the exit door.
The Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has backed the controversial creation of a digital pound that could be used interchangeably with cash and bank deposits, claiming it could become a new trusted and accessible way to pay. So Joint Treasury and Bank of England announcement said they will make a final decision within 3 years on whether to create a digital currency that provides consumers with access to central bank money. It also said its aim is to cut the supposed risk from alternative currencies like Facebook's Libra, whose value can shoot up and down rapidly. The currency would be issued by the Bank of England and accessed through digital wallets hosted by third-party apps on smartphones. And the Chancellor said, that's Chairman Hunt, while cash is here to stay, a digital pound could be a new way to pay that's trusted, accessible and easy to use. However, the House of Lords Economics Committee has questioned the idea, saying there's yet to be a convincing case for the creation of a digital pound and warned that there could be significant challenges to financial stability and the protection of privacy. So, Calvin Robinson, a lot of us suspect that this is all part of the campaign against cash and, in a very sinister way, will be part of the way that the state will be able to track everything we do in the near future.
Yeah, this is snaky behaviour for Hunt to get up there and suggest it might be a possible option in the future. They're already hiring people for this process at the moment. It's already on the government website. They're looking for people to manage these digital currencies, so it is coming. And if we have a central bank digital currency, that will mean that our money is controlled either by the Bank of England or the government itself, which means that they could say, for example, you can only spend money on things that are carbon friendly. Therefore, if meat is considered carbon unfriendly, you can no longer spend your cash on meat. They can say where you can spend your money. They can monitor where you spend it, what you spend it on.
Sort of
They control you. It is a social credit system.
That was true anyway. I mean,
no, because I can spend my money on whatever I like.
Well, is vodka carbon friendly?
I could give you £10 and you could give me a service in return. Now, behave yourself. Behave yourself. Now, we've
lost Rebecca. Can I come in here really quickly? Okay. The thought of the Bank of England controlling my finances and allowing me to spend my money, is she over it yet? Just keep the camera on me.
You're scared about this.
I'm absolutely terrified about this because simple thing. Okay, you want to. We know how much the Bank of England has mucked up. If you do a simple search of the Bank of England mistakes in 6.3 of a second, you get 29 million examples. The Bank of England is screwed up in inflation, it's screwed up on predictions. To think that I would entrust them with my money, and also the other thing about... I don't. No. The other thing that's really cynical about this is that it's for people using their mobile phones, using all this, and that excludes about a third of the population who has any money.
It's a security state, it's a biosecurity state, and we saw over the COVID pandemic...
Are you okay now?
How that can be used for nefarious means. Now, on a big night for Harry Styles, the British pop sensation took home 2 Grammy gongs for his third album, Harry's House, edging out artists including Beyoncé, Adele and Kendrick Lamar. And on receiving the award, humble Harry had this to say.
I've been so inspired by every artist in this category with me. This doesn't happen to people like me very often, and this is so nice. Thank you very, very much.
Unbelievably, well, actually not these days. That comment has caused uproar online and sparked a social media pile-on by woke warriors who accused the pop star of exerting his white privilege. American podcast host Sam Sanders tweeted that Harry's comments were the most white privilegist thing to ever be uttered.
It's true.
That's
racist.
For all time. Other keyboard warriors pointed out that white men have won the award 32 times before and branded the speech crazy because a black woman hasn't won since 1999. Maybe. But on the same night, Beyoncé became the biggest Grammy winner in history with her 30-second gong, which just goes to show that pathetic social justice warriors will do anything to divide us with their nasty brand of identity politics. Harry is a normal British lad who's achieved incredible things beyond his wildest dreams, and he should be able to express that without being accused of bloody white privilege.
He is a straight man cosplaying as a gay man to make people think he's more interesting than he is. I'm sorry, that is fundamentally true.
I have made points about that, but that's nothing to do...
I completely agree with you.
I know, but that's not what this is about. This is about the fact he's white.
Oh,
It's nothing to do with his
it's the
fake
fact that he was
sexuality.
like, oh, things like this don't really happen to people like me. They happen to people like you almost exclusively. You are the person it's most likely to happen to.
But what's that got to do with white privilege?
Because he's exactly the sort of person who this does happen to.
What, a kid who worked in a supermarket before he got
His dad
discovered?
owns a restaurant.
It was a cafe.
It's a pub. His dad owns a pub.
Owns a pub. Well, that's
He
hardly...
has a perfectly nice
But Rebecca,
house.
to
He
be
is
honest,
not a working class hero.
anyone who achieves that will feel like, oh my goodness, look at
Yeah,
where
but
I've
not
come
that they're
from.
done-
And how terrible that if you say that and you're white, you're accused of white privilege.
If I won a Pulitzer, I wouldn't be like, these things never happen to white women who work in journalism. That's exactly who it happens to. I'd be like, thank you for the Pulitzer, good night.
Goodness me.
It's
Rebecca
unlikely.
Reid, Calvin Robinson, Amanda Platel.
White woman just says nothing.
Yeah. For the best this time. Now, coming up, speaking of Beyoncé, you know her record-breaking week of awards may not be over just yet. We're going to reveal why as I crown today's greatest Briton and Union Jackass. But next, in Uncancelled, could Prince Harry's web of lies be untangled in an upcoming court case in the States? And does the Sussex's sudden absence from the Hollywood celebrity circuit indicate their popularity is in free fall stateside? Well, the world's top royal author, one of our top journalists, Tom Bauer, is here with the royal latest straight after the break. We're back in 2 minutes' time.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank. My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, Andrew Pierce here. Join me every Friday lunchtime for a proper no-nonsense debrief of the week's events. With special guests in the studio and the GB News team on the ground, I'll be getting you up to date with news, some intelligent discussion, and my own sharp take. The weekend starts here with me every Friday lunchtime on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236. And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's time now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. And breaking tonight, a US judge has refused to grant Meghan Markle's request to stop depositions being taken, meaning that she and Prince Harry will be grilled by her sister Samantha Markle's lawyers. But a judge warned the case may be ripe for dismissal before the depositions take place. The legal battle has been brought by friend of the show Samantha, who is challenging claims made in the couple's 2020 biography Finding Freedom and their March 21 toxic tell-all with Oprah Winfrey.
Samantha is pushing Meghan to make 38 separate admissions, including that neither the late Queen nor King Charles III were racist. Considering Harry would be forced to speak under oath and the couple's demonstrated fondness for, shall we say, stretching the truth, could the single case see Harry caught up in his own web of lies? Well, to answer this and much more, I'm delighted to welcome the world's top royal author. He, of course, published Revenge, Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, Tom Bauer. So, Tom, this feels like a significant development tonight. What's happening?
Well, if I was Meghan, I'd be undoubtedly very worried tonight. What the judge decided was that Samantha Markle's action for libel, defamation against Meghan, she's, of course, the half-sister of Meghan, has got to go to depositions. The judge did not say the case will be thrown out, only that some of the questions may be withdrawn. But what that really means is that Meghan is going to have to answer all Samantha's questions from her lawyers, whether she lied about Samantha, about Thomas Markle in her notorious interview with Oprah Winfrey. So that's a major breakthrough for Samantha Markle, for Thomas Markle, and for the truth.
So what is Samantha trying to get out of this case? Is she trying to prove that Meghan lied about her upbringing?
Well, what the essence of it is that in the interview with Oprah, Meghan claimed that she never even knew Samantha and that she was brought up as a single child. And that Samantha...
Which your book debunks.
And which we know but from Thomas Markle is totally untrue. But what she also claims is that Samantha only called herself Markle when Meghan was engaged to Harry, which Samantha says is a total lie. Interestingly, Samantha also says that Meghan's story about having a Ford Explorer where she could only get in through the boot was also untrue. She goes through a whole load of Meghan's lies. So by July, that is what the judge has said, these depositions, this cross-examination of Meghan will take place for the trial to start in October. So Meghan really has a problem because until today, her lawyers have been saying this is so ridiculous, we refuse to even engage with Samantha Markle. They stonewalled. Now, at the moment, they were going to be forced to.
So, I mean, this is a huge development, Tom, because we saw in the case against a British newspaper that Meghan can be tripped up by her lies. Because remember, she said, oh, I had nothing to do with that odd little bloke, Omid Scobie, and his terrible hagiography finding freedom. And then she had to say, oh sorry, Judge, actually, I did know about it, and I did allow my communications officials working at the palace to be involved. So she has a track record of being tripped
Well,
up.
and she's not going to find in America the same sort of appalling judges as she has helped her here. Where the judge said about her outright lie, it was an unfortunate lapse of memory. You know, the judges in America aren't so supine, and she's going to find it very tough. And that's going to be very interesting. I mean, her whole attitude ever since Harry's book was published has been fascinating. Her disappearance from view, her silence since last year.
What do you think's going on?
Well, I think she's building up to something very big. There's a very interesting story earlier this week that she was seen having a series of lunches with Gordon Getty, the 89-year-old billionaire oil man at the Beverly Hills Hotel. People are wondering what's all that about. Well, clearly she wants money to build her coffers for various things. But, you know, Meghan is a shrewd operator. What happened today in the court is going to upset her plans, but she's defiant. She's determined, in my view, to build a career in America, political career, and much more. And her lies possibly will now trip her up.
But, Tom, aren't things turning quite toxic for her in the US? I mean, we saw last week Oprah Winfrey's sort of unofficial 69th birthday, attended by the Hollywood glitterati, and Meghan a very noticeable absence. And just like with the Obamas, there's speculation, at the very least, that some of these Hollywood friends are very concerned about the way that Meghan and Harry can't keep their mouths shut and have been sharing private conversations.
Well, I think there's that angle that they have been worried. But Oprah, after all, was severely damaged by her interview. Her status for having allowed Meghan utter one lie after another, not challenging her as a fearsome interviewer, crashed after that interview.
Because she became a propagandist, didn't she?
Absolutely, and an accomplice to her lies. But also I think that they don't want to have someone who is going to detract attention, which is the very reason why Harry shouldn't be invited to the coronation, because he'll distract from the event. But I think Meghan as well has very cleverly decided that if she disappears from view for a period, then when she re-emerges, she'll be unbelievably, sensationally attractive to people. What has she been doing? There's an art of mystery about it all. She's, after all, a Hollywood actress.
No, indeed, that's my theory on this too. I think, don't get me wrong, she knew that things around Spare were going to become very hot, and she thought, well, I'll let my husband take the flak for that. But actually, her disappearance is giving her more power in these negotiations that we believe are going on right now with the woke Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, who is on the behalf of Prince Charles, or King Charles, trying to get them to the coronation. And I think Meghan's silence at the moment helps her, because it almost looks as if she's rising above it all, when in fact we know what she wants to do is negotiate concessions
Absolutely.
from the royal family, which is unbelievable to me.
Well, her silence is power. That's the whole point. And she's brilliant at freezing people out, as her father and many of her former relations have discovered. She's terrific at exercising influence by being invisible. She's not diluting in any way her importance by being away from the scene, and that is exactly what's happening, yeah.
Tom, I wanted to finish with a quick note on William and Kate, because the Princess of Wales specifically has hired this new woman, Alison Caulfield, to work as her private secretary. Now, this is quite an interesting hire, Tom, because this isn't necessarily a normal royal person. She's actually Jamie Oliver, you know, the celebrity chef, his ex-campaign manager. Now, we know with Jamie Oliver, he's got a real tradition of dominating the spotlight, running political campaigns. Is this sort of part of a fight back by Kate?
Well, I think it's a very clever programme, a strategy. Ever since Meghan hit the scene, Kate has had to revise her game. She can no longer be the sort of the docile middle-class shrinking violet. She had to appear good, she had to dress much better, to have better makeup and perform better. And in the end, the royal family depends, its fate, much on Kate's performance and on her character and personality. She is a great woman and will become greater with age. So I think what she's doing is she's just developing. Rightly so. Rightly thinking, I've got to modernise, I've got to be young, I've got to appeal to people who are very dubious about the monarchy, not least because of Meghan and Harry's book and all the rest of it. And so I think she should be applauded for finding people who can advise her how to appeal to those who are dubious about the monarchy, who want to be reassured that the fate of the monarchy is in good hands. And that, I think, is very much in Kate's interest and our interest too.
Yep, no, indeed, I agree. Well, look, fascinating developments, especially on that breaking news tonight, that Samantha Markle could be, we hope, one step closer to some form of legal triumph against Meghan. It's going to be fascinating. We'll watch that case develop. Tom Bauer, thank you so much. We will speak next week. Now, it's time to reveal tonight's greatest Britain and Union jackass. My superstar panel return now. Amanda Patel, who are you nominating as your GB?
OK, Dan, tonight, surprising, but after the conviction of the multiple rapist David Garrick, I'm going to applaud Sir Mark Rowley, who's the new head of the Met, who has come out, put his hands up and said, it's a terrible mess, we will never harbour these kind of criminals again. I wish him all good luck. So he's mine for this week. He's got a lot of guts.
Calvin Robinson, who's your GB nominee?
Isabel Vaughan Spruce. She's the woman that was arrested for silently praying in her own head within a buffer zone. The charges were dropped, but she's going to fight it. She's not going to leave it as it is, and I think she has my full support.
And Rebecca Reed, your greatest
Mine's
British
honorary one, Beyoncé, who is now officially the most awarded woman, not possibly of all time, in music. And also, I just love that she's coming to the UK and she's going to Sunderland and to Tottenham, not just the glossy places. She's going to all over the UK, and I think that's great.
Should we have a little look at her at the speech?
Yeah, and didn't she go to Qatar as well?
Shame.
I'd like to thank my parents, my father, my mother, for loving me and pushing me. I'd like to thank my beautiful husband, my beautiful 3 children who are at home watching.
do you know what? I'm going to go for Beyonce because I think well done, Rebecca. I think she disproves, her success at the Grammys disproves all of these idiots who are trying to say that it was only Harry Styles' white privilege that meant he won Album of the Year, because Beyonce doesn't have white privilege. She's the most successful Grammy winner in history. Amanda Patel, your Union Jackass nominee, please.
OK, following on with the same theme, it is Cressida Dick, who is the previous Met chief, who presided over, some would say even harboured, the criminals, rapists who are coming out on a weekly basis on her watch.
Calvin Robinson, your nominee.
Sam Smith for his disgraceful performance at the Grammys. Just overt Satanism. It's disgusting and young people should not be exposed to it.
And Rebecca Reed, your nominee for Union Jackass.
Leonardo DiCaprio, just because, to clarify, he was born in the early mid-70s and his new girlfriend had her high school education interrupted by COVID.
I'm sorry. I do not get... I've seen this all on the internet all day. What business of yours, Rebecca Reed, is it who Leonardo... Is she an adult, Rebecca Reed?
I mean... Arguably, no. Were you an adult at 19?
But he is legally able to be with this woman.
Yeah, I would say...
So what business is it of yours who Leonardo DiCaprio chooses to date, in all seriousness?
I mean, he's a celebrity. I'm in other people's business
If
all
a
the
really
time.
hot guy approached you, who's fabulously rich and really hot, and he approached you when you were 19, would you go out with him?
When I was
Of course
19,
you would.
when I was
Of
19,
course
my
you
boyfriend.
would.
When I was
Of
19,
course
my
you
boyfriend
would.
was 55. I have skin in the game here. I know how this
your
works.
boyfriend was
you're criticising
55.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, because I know how it works.
Do you know what?
Rebecca.
It's not
good. I love Leonardo DiCaprio as an actor. I absolutely hate his climate change hypocrisy. But when it comes to who the man wants to date, I think it's up to him. So I'm actually going to go with Cressida Dick and Amanda Patel as today's Union Jackass. Amanda Patel, well done. Calvin Robinson, well done. Rebecca Reed, well done. Thank you for being a fabulous superstar panel. Thank you for your company tonight. I'm back again tomorrow from 9 p.m. Next up, though, it's headliners with their irreverent take at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Good night.
This year on GB News, we've got brand new members in the family.
Join us. Across the entire United Kingdom, we cover the issues that matter to you. GB News will always stay honest, balanced and fair. We want to hear whatever is on your mind.
And we don't talk down to you.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you. Britain's watching.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Good evening, you're with GB News. In a moment, headliners. First, let's bring you up to date with the latest headlines. And our top story, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner has apologised for failings in the force after the sentencing today of former officer David Carrick. The 48-year-old has been handed 36 life sentences and will serve a minimum term of 30 years for sexual offences against a dozen women. Carrick pleaded guilty to 49 charges, including 24 counts of rape, all carried out whilst he was a serving police officer. Sir Mark Rowley says he's determined to root out misconduct in the force.
People are going to be